evening, everybody. Welcome. So that wonderful music that you heard as you came in was composed by one of our speakers, Morton Subotnick. I could listen to that for hours. Thank you, Mort, for bringing that with you. So I'm Julie Fry. I'm President and CEO of California Humanities. And we are a statewide organization that helps us to understand what we have in common rather than what divides us. And like Craig just showed me right there, I had sound dividing us there. But thank you so much to the Oakland Museum of California for having us here tonight. And we're really looking forward to this evening's discussion. As part of the National Arts and Humanities Month, we really want to talk about the importance of arts and humanities education. We have a really wonderful panel of speakers that's going to help us with that. So the work that we do at California Humanities is really focused on making grants and doing programs around the state that really do help us to connect ideas to each other. And one of the things that we've been doing for the past year is these events that help us to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Pulitzer Prize. And so we've been doing talks around the state on various topics, and we're very, very happy to have our final one here in Oakland, which is where our home office is as of the last year. I am also very glad to be partnering with Craig Watson and the California Arts Council on this. We've worked together for many years in different ways, and it's very nice to be on the stage with him tonight. So I'm going to hand it over to him for a moment.
Thank you, Julie. And indeed, when we met, we put arts and humanities together quite naturally. And yet, this is really one of the first times that our two groups have worked together in sponsorship. So you're in for a real treat tonight in that all of the performances and the talks you're going to hear tonight, many of these folks have benefited either directly from the California Humanities or from your California Arts Council. And again, as Julie said, we're the state agency that uses state taxpayer money, and through what the legislature and the governor says should be a reflection of our values, that's what we try to do, is take funds that citizens like yourselves put forward through state taxes and put that back into communities and celebrating the arts and the humanities as we are doing here tonight. And again, three of our organizations represented on stage tonight are grantees of the California Arts Council. So the East Bay Performing Arts Center, Destiny Arts, Yerba Buena Arts Center. These are organizations that are well known to most of you in this audience, but may not be as well known that you're supporting them through your taxes. Anyway, delighted to help introduce tonight, delighted to be partnered with Julie and California Humanities. Please enjoy tonight.
Thank you, Craig. And he was a little modest because one of the things that Craig, under his leadership and a number of other people have done, has been to increase the budget, the annual budget of the California Arts Council by how much? How many percent? 500%. So thank you for that. It's amazing work, amazing leadership, Craig. So before we get to the panel, I really want to welcome to the stage two sets of really amazing voices that really meld the arts and the humanities. We're going to start with local spoken word poet, activist, and educator Donté Clark. He is the star, actually, of a documentary that California Humanities funded through the California Documentary Project called Romeo is Bleeding. And that film was about students in Richmond who used Shakespeare's tragedy to mount a play that could really help to start a dialogue about local violence in Richmond, and it's really amazing, an amazing production. The next performance after Donté is going to come from Destiny Arts Center. They're one of our local jewels, and they are doing work with young people around violence prevention and arts education, and they've been serving youth in the area for 28 years. Directed by Sarah Crowell and Rashidi Omari, the Destiny Arts Youth Performance Company is their teen dance theater troupe, and they co-create provocative original work about issues that matter to them. Today they're going to perform excerpts from their latest production, Seed Language, co-created with Nicole Claymoon of the Embodiment Project. Seed Language explores the unseen histories of the war on Black and brown bodies, highlighting the significance of the Black Lives Matter movement. The monologues are based on interviews with activists and artists from the community. The first duet of monologues in the post-traumatic slave syndrome scene, which you will see, are of Sarah Crowell from Destiny and Shakti Butler, the director of World Trust, a film company that explores race and equity issues. The second monologue is of Brandy Mack, an environmental activist and educator portrayed by her daughter. And the third monologue is Alicia Garza, co-founder of the Black Lives Matter movement. So I'm now going to turn it over to Donté and then Destiny.
And they telling me keep searching. In the middle of these bars, I'm trying to find my purpose. Can't cover up these scars. I let you see that we hurting. It's the corner of my soul. It's telling me it's all work. Nah. Dead bodies, they keep haunting me. 25 years old, that's all I want to see. But they be thinking about harming me. I'm just searching for today's harmony. So much sin come with this brown skin. 6 feet deep, this early grave was being found in. Thank God that I ain't drowned in. How much of this was my fault? Was 10 hanging around men with corner store ambitions and vision to make it out big. Searching for that plug, fam. Cause all I got is drugs now. Expect for me to make it out, my friends getting drugged down. That type of living not what my mama permitted, but very few would listen until I spoke what I written. See, I was in a dark place. Nah, I didn't get it. 3 brothers and the pops missing, all of them in prison. My mind on survival, no classroom could fix it. No track way to college, so that explained my suspensions. They was telling me keep searching. In the middle of these bars, I'm trying to find my purpose. Can't cover up these scars. I let you see that we hurting. It's the corner of my soul telling me it's all worth it. Nah. Dead bodies, they keep haunting me. 25 years old, that's all I want to see. And they was thinking about harming me. I was searching for today's harmony. My 2 feet, a Nike shoelace on jaded. Sidewalks of crisscross rhythm with proverbs, scriptures, and psalms and Yah him printed on my heart. It's patterns in the blues that jazz and antique shoes here. We overstepped last night's news of blood spills with life at its earliest years slits. In cracks and pits of ghetto bellies hunger. Cling to rib cage, fifth and chesty liquor. Swallow, Hennessy tears drop on vacant lots. Maybe a rose or two will grow from the asphalt slanted. Clipped petals, crimson disc, cause when thugs cry, bloodshed. Yeah, these streets will do that to you. You'll be somewhere in America. Folded wide in the pockets of court cases when white men in black gowns gavel, racist sightings in silence. You sit there, clenched teeth, seek with grief and cry. When 12 strangers, all who favor disciples of white God, hang blacks with a life sentence, with prideful stares that tap dance and glance from the abyss of a blue-eyed see, I see, y'all see me as a life sentence. Yeah. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. I heard my skin, this nose, my sis, my bros. You count as your foes. A byword, a byword, a byword like black. Like black be me. Like I ain't the soil. Like this blood, ruby red, jewel post ain't royal. What? You think I ain't somewhere in America? A full shoulder with the brick and burden sacked across my back, sacked like nowhere for hire. Plight, sights, nowhere for hire. Like do you nowhere for hire? The side county, the side state. Aside federal numbers across my breastplate, aside a thick steak of debt and the breathtaking the afternights when we have to fight against everything, because somewhere in America, there's a child left behind to daily bread and molded crumbs with bums. Beg me and my pennies for ditties instead of the Most High's mercy. Thirsty to starve and living waters, gardens of Edens. Fruits be best without heathens, misleading sowers to evil norms. Where you born, my nigga? Somewhere in America. I goes to find me some freedom somewhere in America, because Whitey says I's free and I believed him. Can't leave him here and on and on and on. That ain't the best of things to do. Go home to the motherland for what? I's fine right here in a zoo. Ooh. What's left with you? Don't you know no rights? I was okay with anything we get. Shit loans eyes and equal to the whites, but not like this all kick your head and dirty like yikes. Be me for what? What's special about me is I be. I be me, I guess nowhere but grave. Engraved picture on a shirt. Facetious white Jesus left me dead in a church somewhere in the South. Television sold me. Tell a vision of lies convenient for your couch. Anything to entertain your mind. Control how you think, because you think who told you that? Who told you that freedom was somewhere in America? Because I've been thumbs up, side road hiking, college paper typing, 2 jobs overnighting, overtraining, Tyson fighting and biting my way through the Holyfield and I ain't seen it. Who told you that somewhere in America affirmative action meant favor? For you, I'll wait. At the Fruitville station, wait for Oscar. Grant us peace for Eric. Garner the spirits of hip-hop lyrics. A toenail closer inside a mansion of kingdom. Stop dancing for chances. You want answers, then beat them. You breathe them, sulfurize. Heat thickens. Black lives matter while livers sicken. Black lives matter while livers sicken from vodka. Bloody Mary shots, they bullet our babies to submission. Attention is payment. So what do you invest your time in? Sin? Because if it's not to Messiah your soul, then it's nothing pretty. We're just a pack of blind eyes chasing shadows in a burning city somewhere in America. And they be telling me keep searching. Middle of these bars, I'm trying to find my purpose. Can't cover up these scars. I let you see that we hurting. It's the corner of my soul. It's telling me it's all worth. Nah. Dead bodies no longer hiding me. 25 years old, I think I'm gonna see. When you be thinking about harming me, I still found taste harmony. Woo.
She created the term post-traumatic slave syndrome from the term post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD.
But when you look at post-traumatic slave syndrome, when you say that, people go, what? But everybody understands what post-traumatic stress is. Post-traumatic stress plays out in behavior, right? So behavior is how you escape from your pain. You know, drinking, drugs, sex, whatever the addictions are.
So in the case of post-traumatic slave syndrome, slavery is a traumatic event which happened over generations and lives inside of our genetics as African American people. Like we don't trust anybody. And that causes paranoia in people.
It obliterates how you hold yourself and the value that you see in yourself. There's also a deep disconnect from the people around you.
So when I think of post-traumatic slave syndrome, I think of when somebody just looks at a black person and that person gets an attitude. They're like,
what you looking at?
Like it's an affront to be looked at. You know what I'm saying? Well, my people were enslaved and not seen as human. So they weren't really seen. And if you're not seen, then how can somebody look at you and not make you feel like there's something wrong? Like there's something off if you look at it.
What you looking at?
What you gonna do with that dessert? Do what, do what, do that, do that, do what, do that, do that, do that, do what, do that, do that, do that, what you gonna do with that dessert?
In the South African language, the word for hello literally means, I see you. Every day, hundreds of times a day, someone is saying, I see you. So when they're greeting you, they're really respecting you and welcoming you. And then black people were brought over here from Africa as slaves, and all of a sudden, we were absolutely invisible. We were basically erased from humanity. One of my jobs on the planet this time around is to remind us that we were not slaves, but we were enslaved. I'll say that again. We were not slaves, but we were enslaved. I often tell a story on the savviness of black folks, even during the enslavement. Cornrows that you wear in your hair, we often think, that's a French braid. Where did the word cornrow come from? Well, see, here are these people that were being enslaved that some may judge as illiterate, ignorant, and of no sense. Even while they were being stripped of all their clothing, they managed to think, what will we eat if we make it to the other side? The women began to braid corn seeds, collard green seeds into their hair because this was the only thing they would not be stripped of. The women would braid the seeds in their hair and endure the torturous ride over. And when they landed, they can merely shake their living afro hair and seeds would fall and hit the soil. Because they'd be left there for months while Massa went to go figure out whose house they was going to work. Original people, savvy, enslaved, but not slaves. I need everybody to raise their right hand. And I want you to pledge. Promise me that you will do something today, tomorrow, about a movement you didn't know much about before. And I want you to pledge to me today that you will give your time, your energy, your heart, and your love, not just to this brilliant gathering, but to the movement to save our lives. I'm not sure. Do you all pledge? Yes. Put your hand on your heart. And with your hand on your heart, I want you to promise yourselves that you will bring your full self everywhere you go. That you will be vulnerable with one other person. For those of you who are parents, I want you to pledge that you will teach your son about feminism, the all-inclusive feminism. And I want you to pledge that you will spend this year in particular doing everything that you can to remove the barriers that face us. Attention! Break it down now!
Chap in the band, oh, I don't wanna look like you. Oh, in the band, oh, in the band, oh, in the band, oh, oh, in the band, oh, in the band, oh, in the band, oh, in the band, oh, in the band. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Oh, in the band, like you. Oh, in the band, oh, in the band, oh, in the band, oh, in the band, oh. In the band, oh, 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 in the band, oh. In the bando, chap in the bando. I don't wanna live. Let's go. Let's rewind. Yo, I see a line, do you know, do you know? Well, here we go, hot cake dough, jelly bean, banjo, candy stove, polka dot, backpack, microphones, shamalama, doggy bones, chippy, chop, bust the flip flop, skateboard, tennis shoes, ice cream shop, telephone poles, baking hot rolls, and I need one tiptoe, sitting on toes, bubblegum, TikTok, hound dog trees, cock-a-doodle-doo, and some hard-head cheese, leave out the room, grab the old room, eat a watermelon and walk on the moon, cherry coke, cantaloupe, little old maid, a big black berry inside the Kool-Aid, a bass guitar, an old fruit jar, a green canteen, and a chocolate bar, cannonball, baby dog, with raw fan, I put the mad dog in a Japanese man, a double bunk bed, throw a punch to the head, now get up and watch me wrap the cornbread, hey!
To Donté Clark and to Destiny for its company. You know, this is why we do what we do, right? There isn't anything better than seeing these young people. The hope they give us, the inspiration they give us, is just a really amazing way to start the conversation of our panels, our panel speakers tonight. But I just, as you can tell, I'm really moved by that. I'm very excited to have them start our evening tonight. But now I've got this really amazing panel that's going to come up. And the people that are going to be joining us are really leaders, not only in the Bay Area in California, but nationally and internationally, as artists, as leaders in the arts education and humanities education movement. So I'm going to bring them up. We're going to start with Jordan Simmons from East Bay Center for the Performing Arts. Come on. And then we have Marc Bamuthi Joseph, Yerba Buena Center for the Arts. And Sarah Crowell, Destiny Arts. Where are you? There you are. And last but not least, our very special guest, Morton Subotnick. He is a pioneer in electronic music composition, education leader. He started Cal Arts. He taught at Mills College. And we're just delighted. He's a Pulitzer Prize finalist, and we just couldn't be more pleased to have him here from the East Coast. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Oh yeah, we have to turn these things on hot. So I'm gonna break the panel already, and I'm gonna ask you guys to do some work. Okay. All right. So I think all of us was incredibly impressed with Destiny and with Donté, and it made me think about just what I was doing at 14, let alone at 25. And before we formally get into the panel, I'd like for you guys to just turn to each other and give you 2 minutes. And if you could just find somebody next to you and talk about a cultural moment that set you on your current course. A cultural moment that set you on your current course. As an example, I grew up in New York City, and the artist Keith Haring had this mural along the FDR Drive that said "Crack is whack." And every day I would drive by that mural on my way to my job and thought, oh, okay, this isn't just about a particular announcement of the artist's being. This is a political statement. Art can be political. I can be political through my art. I was 11 years old. Now, that was a cultural signifier or a cultural moment for me. To begin, take 2 minutes. Meet somebody new. And talk about, or meet somebody that you can't meet. give you 2 minutes. A cultural moment that set you on your current course. No, for real. Let's bring it back. I know, right, Sid? So it's good. I think that as we launch into a broader conversation about the humanities, I think it's important for a sense of continuum to be alive in the room. It's important, I think, for us to have a sense of how we came to be here. And maybe to start us off, I would pose the same question that I just asked to you all to our esteemed panelists, beginning with Jordan.
He didn't tell me he was going to ask me. Yeah, so many things. I'm not sure where to start. Cultural moment. I think I was in the 9th grade and I heard a friend of mine singing something like early, early morning when I heard my hound dog bark. Stagger Lee and Billy Light were squabbling in the dark. And I said, ooh, what is that? It sounds like a song with a story. And he sang me the whole song. And I said, man, that's really a tough story. And I like my friend. I was at Kennedy High School. And I think that song put something in my head that I needed to find out about, not just the blues, but about that story of Stagger Lee. And ever since then, I have kept that story.
Thank you.
Many pictures came in front of my face when you asked that question. I love that question. One was, well, I come from a family of activists, and so they're diehard. My father's 85, and right now he actually can only lay down comfortably, but he talks to me about monetary policy still, passionately. So he was anti-nuke. He did all that. So I come from that. And my mother was doing race work, and I loved ballet. And I started taking ballet when I was 5. And I had every color tutu. And I was just deeply transfixed when I saw really good ballet. And I remember when I was about 7, I went and saw with my mother, I saw Giselle, which is very dramatic, tragedy. And I loved all the drama of it. And I remember noting that they must only be able to do that in order to be that good. I had taken ballet already and noticed that, just to do one little arm movement or to point my toe in the right way, it took so much technique and rigor. And I was like, that takes a lot of work. And I don't think I'm going to be that. I had said I wanted to be a ballet dancer when I grew up. But I said, I don't think I want to be that because I have other things that I need to do in this world. There are other things, and I'm 7. But I have an die-hard activist family. And I thought, I wonder, I love 7-year-old minds. At Destiny, we teach kids from 3 to 24 now. And so I love the range of ages. And I love a 7-year-old mind because it's very concrete. It's like, oh, I can't do that because of that. And so I knew that I couldn't be a ballet dancer because I knew I had something to change in the world. But I never imagined that I could bring that together, not at that point, until I did what I did with, my career. We won't talk about all that, but just the memory. That's the memory, the cultural memory of I love that, and I'm not going to be just that, but something close to that integrates my passion for social justice and my passion for the art.
Well, I could be your father, 85. Wow. I don't know where to start. I grew up in East Los Angeles in Boyle Heights. I don't know, where are we here? We're Northern California now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so this was, I started music because I had when I was about 5, because I had some bronchial condition. So they said I should play a wind instrument. And I grew up in a kind of a little Jewish ghetto in the middle of everything. We had the zoot suits and everything you can imagine was going on around. But my mother brought home a book, and the book was a book of all the instruments in the orchestra without any pictures. And I had just seen, I don't remember who it was, but a jazz trombonist play. And I thought, I didn't know any music at all, but that trombonist was so fantastic. It was just great. So I said, I want the instrument that does that. This is, I guess I was 6 years old. And so we went through the whole book, and I couldn't find, there were no pictures, so I finally found the clarinet. That sounded like the instrument that might be doing this. So my mother got a clarinet brought. It didn't even look like a clarinet, it was a metal instrument. And I was sure I'd be able to play just like him. The first time I got it, I just knew it. And of course, she brought the instrument, and it wasn't anything like that. And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, it's the wrong instrument." I said, No, I was too proud. I said, "It's exactly right." Within 2 years, I became, when I was more, by 3 or 4 years, I played my first concerto with an orchestra when I was 9. And moved from there to composing to, I never played jazz. And I never played the trombone. and 50 years ago, 55 years ago, my old friend Don Buchla and I did the first analog synthesizer. So that whole career came from that jazz trombonist playing on the street and in Boyle Heights, and changed my life, made my life, and I always wondered what would have happened had you brought a trombone home.
So folks, we are gathered here today to celebrate this thing called life. Oh, I too have many stories, but I think that for me it was the movie Do the Right Thing. I grew up in New York City, and when I was very young, I did commercials and did musical theater, was on Broadway, did all these kinds of like corporate connected artistic manifestations where I was just kind of in it. And I told you in 1986 I saw Keith Haring's work really for the first time live. And I eventually got this poster that that the artist Keith Haring did with a giant black figure being held around its throat by a small white figure. And the black figure was stepping on the small white figure. And beneath that image were the words "Free South Africa." And that poster was above my bed when I was a teenager. And so for many years, the first two things that I would see when I woke up were Michael Jordan with his arms outstretched and the word "free." So that leads me to why I asked this question of the catalytic moment, because it seems to be that in each of your work, in each of your practices, there's an ethic of accountability. And we're here talking about the humanity. Well, okay, sweet. Just turn that off. Okay. So we're here broadly speaking about the humanities, and in asking you all about this catalytic moment, one of the things that we seem to have in common is that whatever it was, whether it was a piece of music, whether it was bearing witness to others, there's something about cultural expression that made you all feel alive, that connected you to your humanity in a really auspicious and obviously catalytic way. So I wonder if you all could talk a little bit about how you continue to develop practices to others.
And so I have less and less to say the older I get. It's really interesting to also watch that sort of melt away. So it's always when I come to these things, I'm like, I wonder if I'm going to actually have any words to say. And then here they come. But I think, yeah, it's definitely human because we're in this body, and I'm like constantly fascinated by how we can be in bodies in a way that's conscious, in a way that brings a sense of love and connectedness, that helps us traverse the separateness of being in bodies by being in bodies. So it's become that esoteric for me, and I run very human programs. I just looked up, and it's been 25 years, and I've been at Destiny for 25 years, and I got nominated for a Tony Award in Excellence in Theater Education, so I got to go into your Broadway realm, and I was like, oh my God, I haven't been to a Broadway show in pretty much 25 years, because I've been doing this vital work about bringing ourselves into our bodies and then traversing bodies through dance and theater and good, solid mentorship of young people, really being present in the communities that we're serving. I've lived in the neighborhood where Destiny has been for the entire time that I've worked there, because I think it's how do I live next to people in a really good way? How do I live in a body next to bodies and be deeply kind? Be deeply kind. Really, that's the essence of it. Destiny started as a violence prevention center, and our whole thing was we're going to create environments and give kids skills so they can feel safe. And then we had martial arts programs, and then we had dance programs that I started and that were funded by the California Arts Council. Thank you, God, for the California Arts Council residency programs that were in the 90s that started those programs where artists could actually be teachers in communities and be in bodies. I know I'm taking a long time, and I even said that I don't talk that much, and then here I go. But it's such a great question because it's so human to be physical. And then also the voice is also this vibration in our bodies. It's how do we truly be human? I had one kid say to me the other day, I think it's sort of, sometimes the kids say to me stuff, and I'm like, okay, I can die now, And she said, when I'm around Sarah, I just feel like it's all love. And I'm like, oh, that's exactly what it's about. It's being in bodies, doing something good in bodies so that we feel loved and lovable and able to love, and then just love. Grab it.
I'll grab it. Yeah, well, I already gave you a little taste of it, actually, but 1958, I was living in San Francisco. I was part-time playing with the San Francisco Symphony and writing concert music. and I was pretty good at both. And I became aware that there was a thing that was just about to happen called the long playing record, and that the transistor, which I didn't know what it was, but I heard that it was going to now be around to make something that would make listening to music very cheap. And then, in addition to that, Bank of America produced the first credit card. So I realized that up until that moment, it was very, very hard to hear any music. You had to go to a concert hall. You heard it on the radio. If you were listening to opera, you'd hear it from New York. You would hear it at 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. And whatever someone was going to play, there was just unbelievably small amount of music that one could get. And I realized at that moment, that was 1958-59, that I was living in a time that was similar to when the printing press came. The printing press altered the entire landscape about how we dealt with words and ideas. And I thought, immediately I thought, we're at the moment of a birth of some technology that will alter music in the same way. Everybody in the world will be able to hear music from everywhere. But it wasn't happening yet, but it was going to happen. And I thought, how can I stay playing the clarinet, the symphony orchestra, and writing concerts? I'll never be the greatest clarinetist in the world. I can't offer what the clarinet, what a lot of people could offer. I could write good music that people would play, but this would be an opportunity to do something that I could give myself to the development of this whole new medium and offer my musical background, because what I realized at that time was that what would happen, music was a very elite art. You had to learn to play an instrument, you had to learn to read music, you had to have enough money and enough time to be able to do that. If you didn't start until you were 18, forget it. I mean, there were things you could do, but there was a lot you couldn't do. And I thought to myself, what, with this new technology, it would be possible that there would be a new kind of music that someone at 25 or any age could get their hands on and be able to start and do. And so that was my dream, and that's what I did, and I'm still doing it. I'm just at the end of it. And one of the things I felt was, since I was blessed with being able to spend all this time with music, that I thought, what can you do in your life? What was the mantra of who we are and what we are? Very similar to what you were talking about. And it was, it's almost an obligation, it's a responsibility to be as human as you possibly can, to be everything you can be, and then to share it. Without that, the thing doesn't happen. So right now, I'm finishing up my memoir for the MIT Press, which is documenting all the technology that I developed and what I did. And I'm still traveling like mad to go to these festivals with young people who now think that they brought this zombie back from the dead who started all this stuff. I really feel like a time traveler going into these places, but it's really important. I think that has shaped my whole life from 1958 through to today and on.
Wow. I don't know how to get from, let me see how to get from Stagger Lee to here. Okay, so I'll see how quick I can do it. 1968, 69, after the assassination of Dr. King, I was at a high school in Richmond, and it wasn't just, we realized that, those of you who don't know the Ballad of Stagger Lee, is about somebody who is arrested, and it's about the criminal justice system once upon a time. And I got interested through that song into blues and jazz. But it also came about at the time, right before and then right after the assassination of Dr. King, when my high school and my town was going through a lot of stuff. So I don't feel this story is really about me, it's about my community, about my town, and the questions that people have been asking. At least I participated or I was a participant in the story that was being asked about why things the way they were following the assassination of Dr. King. And my high school at that time in Richmond had a bunch of people who were dreaming about not only asking the stories that about black and white, but also about the Vietnam War and about the arc of injustice and social justice writ large. And so that question about how does the individual story become part of this larger understanding and these larger forces, because it meant everything in those days from individual violence to protests and intellectual movements. And I think that was the question. That question had me run away from Richmond, because I felt, how could the answer be in where I'm from? If where I'm from had the answer for me, why would I be asking that question? Now you can think I'm a dumb young person, or if you will, because I couldn't figure that out. But I will say it put me on my journey that included academics, to find out about where Western civilization came from, and then to go, wow, they are also missing something. There's a bit of music that is left undone. Where I went to college, I remember one of my professors asked me, but there isn't enough material written for you to write your thesis. I wrote my thesis on the collective improvisation in American jazz, and about how the musical foundation came from Africa. And they said, well, there's not enough to write about. I said, wow, that was deep. So I'll try to compress this a little. After college, I figured out that we weren't getting the whole story. I knew that. And I took some time to educate myself, and luckily I met some very beautiful mentors from West Africa and from Brazil, from Japan, from different places around the world, who were able to fill in the story of not just my Stagger Lee, but they were able to tell me that the conflict was not just black and white. It was in every direction. I heard wise people say we suffer because we think we are separate from each other. And I remembered my high school mentors, the coach, my English teacher, people who had values about what we dreamt was going to happen. You know, the civil rights had come, but it hadn't, the stalk had grown, but the flower hadn't flourished. And so I'm just a poor musician who trying to puzzle piece the ideas of, okay, I'm not a politician or something like that. But I said, you know what? That place, that little program that in 1968, I started learning how to read music because I was just playing by ear. Let me go back there and see how it's doing. And they, you know, to their, I don't know, maybe they don't believe it, but they hired me to teach music in 1978 at Richmond at East Bay Center. And I said, well, I don't want to just teach piano. I want to teach what they are doing in Bahia, in Brazil right now. I want to teach the music that is out in the streets and people are desabafa, to get off your chest. I want to teach about the music that came and how African music became part of our culture. And later, we learned that it wasn't just that canon was left out, but that all the canons of the world, and that we had to teach ourselves what is human culture. Because we have to respect our cultures that are 1,000 and 2,000 and 4,000, but we all have to respect that human culture is 1 million years old, at least. And so at the center today my job is supporting my brilliant colleagues. A couple of my mentors like C.K. Ladzekpo, who is there to this day teaching, and Bira Almeida and Masayuki Koga, and people who are they are source, they are the root of the deep root and the wide of the wide world. But we have built a curriculum with now 5,000 students, and 130 of them are in leadership role, that the curriculum is taking points of the compass from the wide world and saying to our young people, you need to understand your root so it can feed you, and you also need to have the perspective of the world. Because the world is listening, all of us, to music. They are inventing in many languages, and the languages are equally beautiful. They have equal mystery. So it's our job, my job, to support the brilliant young faculty like Kwesi and Kweku and Lolis from Africa, from Richmond, who have grown up there. My job is to support them to make our students better than we were. They will understand the story of Stanley, and they will still create, and they will be driven by that. The way I was driven by a puzzle, they might be driven by the beauty of what we understand. You can call it taste harmony, you can call it embodiment, you can call it universal capacity.
Wow. Pretty fresh people here. You guys are beautiful souls. It feels good to be up here with you. Thank you. You used the word beauty a lot, and I've been thinking a lot about dignity. Yes. Yes. All right, cool. Still have it. So I've been thinking a lot about beauty. I've been thinking a lot about dignity. I've been thinking about beautiful processes, and I've been thinking about abundance in relationship to each other. And it seems like a common theme here is this idea of relationship. Whether it's being prescient enough to understand a technological evolution is on its we're on the precipice of a technological revolution, or being compassionate enough to understand that political borders essentially are fallacy, that we do much better if we think of ourselves as cultural empaths rather than being protective of certain practices within cultural borders. I'm also struck that all of you essentially have established institutions or have imbued the institutions that you were a part of with the force of your individual personalities. You're a founder of Cal Arts. You're essentially a founder of Destiny Arts, and you essentially are a founder of the East Bay Performing Arts Center. That's a powerful medium. And so I wonder if you guys could just talk a little bit about how the institutions that you've established or co-founded are instruments in the present moment for these ideas of dignity, of beauty, and of abundance. I'll just ask the question again. How have the institutions that you've founded or co-founded served in the present moment as instruments of dignity, beauty, or abundance?
I love that question. Those are like the three things that I've been in. I think we're like I don't know, we have the same color jacket on, like we're just connected today. But I've been like, I say obsessing, but I've been obsessed about beauty. Like, what does that actually mean, and how do we unleash that, in the young people that we serve, and dignity as a way of being in bodies, and abundance as a nonprofit in a community that has an abundance of nonprofits doing amazing work. How do we maintain a sense of dignity without running? Thank you, Jordan. That's dignity. That's humility and dignity. Thank you, my brother.
Thirst.
Cultural, the cultural thirst. Yeah, but how do we maintain dignity in a sense of abundance? When we may be as artists or as people of color or as people that are working toward, young people being artists or queer people, how do we feel worthy enough to be in that sense of abundance and not be crabs in a barrel trying to, get, pushed to the top? And I think one way, because I love that you said, wow, sitting in front of people who have been doing this for a long time in established organizations, and I feel like a baby in the middle here in a certain way. I mean, I've been at Destiny for 25 years. And, I feel like finally I can say, wow, I have some perspective on how it is that we live in dignity and beauty and abundance, and as artists and revolutionaries in that sense. And I like saying that I'm a quiet revolutionary, but a revolutionary for sure. And it's definitely I watch the organization I've watched it kind of grow around my values and the values that were embedded by our founder, Kate Hobbs, love, respect, care, honor, responsibility, and peace, which is our Warriors Code, and then how I imbibe them, and then how I just be around people and watch them, and so honor people's beauty and have at the centerpiece love, and then I'm like, okay, then what's going to happen, And then I'm sort of strict teacher with a lot of love, but strict and rigorous and detail oriented. And so all my students are very detail oriented, and they stand sort of tall, and there's a lot of dignity in them, and they're boisterous and they're happy, and I watch that sort of emerge out of each of my teaching artists, and the ones that I'm mentoring, and the ones that I look up to, and they're sort of the same, and then I mentor other people in the community when they come and they say, well, I just feel like there's not enough money for the artists, there's not enough to go around. And I say, well, there's a way to be in the world that invites abundance. And not that sense of competition. I've had it. I was a poor, starving artist. That was my mantle. I was proud to be a poor, starving artist. I danced with Dance Brigade. We were fight the power. That was my badge. And then when I said I'm going to be raising money for a nonprofit, so I have to let that go. And what do my students deserve? They deserve beautiful space. They deserve everyone in the hood can come to this beautiful space, go to the East Bay Center for the Performing Arts, and, Jordan has been a mentor to me in a lot of ways. He did it, he raised a hell of millions of dollars to get a building. I'm gonna get a building too. And he was like, yeah, go girl, and I did, And I said, well, can we meet and talk about it? He was like, yeah, come on, I'll tell you all my secrets, It's not a secret. And so now we have a 7,500 square foot building that we own outright in the middle of North Coast, And I was like, just stay steady. There's also that whole thing, which I love, that I think is lost in a certain way, and I also look up to Jordan in that way, around just staying steady, keep doing it, teach young people that, you don't get good at something overnight, right? There's a lot of that just, teachers come up to me, they're like, oh, I've been doing it for 5 years and I'm gonna give up. Give up? I didn't even like my job for 8 years, like I didn't even like kids for 8 years, and then I was like, then they became beautiful to me. Then I walked into beauty, into dignity, but until then I was crawling naked, uphill on broken glass. Like, it's hard work, And like then, after 25 years, you can go, oh, abundance, beauty, and dignity. But it's born of that like ripping through, at least for me, ripping through, somebody's saying something. I don't know, but it's just, you know what I'm saying. You get the picture. But I think beauty comes from that. There's struggle, but there's also release of struggle there. And then I look at my students, and I think they're so beautiful. Weren't they beautiful? Yeah. Like, every single child that comes to Destiny, I'm like, oh, you're so beautiful. It's like I can see it. After, all these years of picking away at my own indignities, my own unworthiness, it's like I did that by teaching, that I can see truly this, incredible beauty in each being. And then when people walk into Destiny, they're like, it feels really good in here. That's what I want. I want it to feel good in their bodies and their spirits when they walk in my spaces.
Thank you. Well, I guess actually, I have to give a whole different side to this, because what I began to understand as I moved into the technology, where I described what I was doing, I realized that that at a certain point, I began to understand that what we've been doing with music is great. I mean, it's a fantastic thing, but it is music that has grown out of these different cultures. That this technology was going to allow people to do something. Some people, some 1% maybe 1/100%, don't want to do what other people do in the culture. And they'll have the opportunity now with a new technology, if we empower them, if we can find these people, to create absolutely, maybe not a beautiful thing, but to get that oddball who is, and to empower them, which cultures don't do. They either ostracize them or they make them special, but they don't let them, well, I won't get into that. but that's what I was after. So when we started CalArts, we made a very, very big effort to be the school for that 1%. And that's what it became. It became this. I fought against. I don't know where it is now because I left there. They gave me a doctorate and I left, an honorary doctorate to retire me. So I finally left. But so I don't know where it is now. But I fought against the commercial enterprises coming in and giving scholarships in order to watch people. And then grab them, so they would give scholarships to certain people. And my point at that moment was, I'll take the money for scholarships, but it won't have your name associated with it. And you can come and watch if you want, but nobody's going to know who you are, because we're after people who are looking to find out who they are, very individual people, and they're no smarter than the one who wants to get a commercial job. They're going to look the same to you. But the way they're different is that what's going to happen if they say, well, you can get a job with Disney if you do well, you're going to get a different kind of person in there. You're going to get the corporate person in there. They have to come in and find themselves. And then you can do what, if you offer them, they probably like the job later on in life when they come out. But that was the main thing. So what I ended up doing, aside from developing all my own music and tried to impact this thing, I ended up realizing that we've never had an opportunity in the history of the human being that we had now, where any person as young as 3 years old can create music in the same way you can finger paint. You don't have to learn an instrument first. Imagine if kid starts finger painting, you don't say, hey, you can't do that until you learn to draw. You have to take drawing lessons first, right? And if they're playing with blocks and they fall down, oh, you can't play with those blocks until you learn how to put them up so they don't fall down. We don't, that would be, you'd put them in jail, the parents, if they did that. In music, when a kid says, gee, I got this idea for a piece of music, oh, great, give them piano lessons. And it's over. That's the end of it. So, but we didn't have a choice. You could build blocks, you could finger paint, but you couldn't write music. You couldn't even play music until you learned to play it, right? But with the new technology, it would be possible to develop, and I finally did develop it, and developed a series of CD-ROMs when they first came. And they're all for individuals from 4 years old up to be able to create music at the same, with the same spontaneity as finger painting. And they're all over the place. I run into people every once in a while, but only, it's not for everybody. It's for those individuals. And just one other little anecdote. I also, to develop it, I went to different places and worked with kids. And I had a class in Harlem at the Harlem School of the Arts. Where are we? We're in San Francisco. That's in New York. Okay.
New York.
Oakland. Okay, sorry. Well, tomorrow I go to London, so I'll never know where I am. But I had this class. There were about 8 kids, and I had a young person teaching it, and I was teaching the young person to teach it. And I came back and I saw she was doing the same old thing. She was putting them in, now we're going to do this, now we're going to do this. I said, okay, well, this is what I want you to do. I want you to make an assignment, like, make things that go up. And let them, don't tell them you want a song or this, just get things go up. And so the kids were all busily working on it. She calls me on the phone and says, I have to get rid of this one kid. I said, what's the problem? Well, everybody writes music that goes up, and he writes music that goes down. And I tell him to sit down, and he stands up. I said, we're getting rid of him. I said, that may be the 1% right there. So I came in, and he would do somersaults through the room, and everybody, he was dynamo, but really, it took forever to do it. But I asked him the question. This was a very simple question. Why, when everybody makes music go up, do you do something that does something else? He said, I don't like doing what everybody else does. He knew what he was doing. That's creativity. That's what we're after. So it doesn't, it's not like that's the best thing to do, but they're left out. These kids are left out, and they represent a small part of the population, and they're totally left out of the thing. We have one more little one. You have a music class, and it's a creative music. It's a creativity we're going to do. We're going to do a music class, okay? So, da-da-dee-dee, da-da-dee-dee, dee-doo-dee-doo. That's wrong. We have to go, that's not creativity. So that's what I've dedicated all my children's things, is to develop a way in which kids can develop independently and in classrooms, where they can have their own space in the classroom without doing somersaults and wrecking it for everybody else. So I think that's the other side of this.
Well, it would be amazing if we didn't collectively see creativity as abundance. Creativity, if we could just normalize creativity so that the margin that you speak of, I don't necessarily want them to come back to the pack, but I would like us collectively to understand that creativity isn't extra. Creativity is central to who we
Well,
are.
I think it's important to understand that if everybody were like that kid, it would be chaos. And luckily, not many people want to be like that kid. But they need to be, because they're the possible kid who's going to invent the wheel down the line or do something that sparks other people, that says, gee, I never thought of doing that. Then that becomes a new norm. I think it's a kind of, it's a very strange area, because, you know, I've lived through Cleveland Orchestra played a piece of mine, and at the end, the orchestra refused to bow. They all booed me from the stage. The audience booed me. When I went into rehearsals in Chicago, the orchestra turned and looked at, during the breaks for coffee, they would put their coffee down and look at the wall until I left. I had to have my coffee with the security guard.
Did you do somersaults in class?
I never did somersault. I slept through class. I hated school, but
It got you this far, though. Jordan, we don't have a ton of time left, brother, but I'm wondering if you could also respond to this question of how your institution is an instrument for dignity, beauty, or abundance.
Dignity, abundance, creativity. I think about paradox. I'm gonna have to jump off Morton there. You know, what is one person's beauty, depending on where you're coming from? If I start speaking in a different language, in Twi, or in Mandarin, or in some people will understand and others will not, because we are, you know, we come from a culture or a place and a time, and we need instruction. We're not born knowing something. And some of us are born not only wanting to somersault, but I'll give you an example. One of the teachers that I worked with was dyslexic, but she was dyslexic in movement. So if you play a drum pattern, a melodic pattern, she could learn it easily and follow and remember. But if you counted, she'd get all mixed up. And if you showed her a sequence of movements, she would remember it backwards. So we started, when we were building our curriculum, our Deep Roots curriculum, the Wide World curriculum, one of the workshops that we did with some people from Cal Arts, by the way, I made them learn a dance series backwards. Because you see, all of our brains, all of our perceptual orientations, all of our cultural orientations, all of our biological orientations, they are different. And the paradox is that we have to learn both to be in ourselves, and that we have to learn how to become part of that group. Whether it's your tribe, your culture, your ethnic background, your citizenry, your 1%, your 99%, we are monitoring ourselves and we are monitoring those around us. So we have the paradox of the individual somersaulter. And then we have the responsibility, like the proverb says, don't be strange to your own people. And kids grow up in different cultures, not just being creative in music, because music is not separated from dance. We know that in some places in the world, to learn to play music is to learn to move. So, dance drumming. There is a tradition about learning the dances and the drumming together. That is a heritage. That is a human heritage. Some people will say, that's strange, we don't do that, get out of it. But that is something that we can access. We access it because of where we come from, or we access it because we are human. People say, Jordan, no, East Bay Center works with disadvantaged kids, or kids at risk. I say, show me a kid. My own kids. Every kid, every one of us is distracted today by the amounts of information that's coming in off the tweet or the page or the internet or people emailing us or stuff we have to listen to or teachers hollering at us. We got to find our place, both as an individual and as a member of different sets. So we know that raising money for institutions that can attract a very special niche is difficult, but it can be done. What we don't know is, and still struggling, is how do you create institutions that are helping our young people both equitably to have the skills they need to compete and be themselves, and to go out from themselves and be part of the society, but come back to themselves, come back to their family, come back to their root. How are we protected in a sense of the humanity to go out to recognize the other has a right for their music and the way they are trained. But also I have a right to be my somersaulter. At East Bay Center, we have been like consciously and intentionally, a number of artists and thinkers from around the world trying to ask us, what would that look like in a place like Richmond? So we have created a culture of our faculty and our staff and our board and the way we carry ourselves and the way we talk to each other, the way the young people are. Hopefully, it represents a beauty which is open. It represents a beauty and an idea that I don't need to deny you to be me. That I actually see you in relationship, that you are me, I am you. But that is done through study and playing the music and dancing and being creative, and people don't tell you shut up. So we're trying to make that in a place, which is 11th and McDonald in the Iron Triangle. Yeah. And because it's in a place, what do they call it today? Place-based? Is that the word? We have to survive on that block even when the shooting was happening, and even when you can't park, it's all the same. It all has risk. Now, so making something that can happen in a place where people don't think it can happen, with ideas about ourselves and everybody, that's kind of interesting. Artists like interesting things, if you can say, what is an artist? I don't know. So now, today, our next step is we have sister and cultural community organizations in Laos, in West Africa, in Brazil, in Mexico, in the Highland Mountains. And that's places that are root forms where our artists come from and where the tradition of how we train come from. And we are sending, our kids are learning about those places. They are communicating with them because one day, place-based, through the technology, becomes linked to other place-based. So in our own way, we are trying to live our journey as our individual, creative, somersaulting downward self. And at the same time, we are trying to learn that there is a frame that you can be open, awake, unafraid. To say, I see you. I see you.
My friends who want to lead it right there. Yeah.
Can you just show this for a second?
Absolutely. Anything you want.
Does it have a trombone?
Finger painting.
So that's finger painting.
On behalf of I'd like to welcome back Julie Fry to our stage.
Oh, I'm so sorry that this has to end. This is really amazing. Again, thank you to all of our wonderful, amazing